I want to read your definition. Uh, what is what is a trigger? What does it mean to trigger someone? The word trigger. To trigger someone means causing them to experience a strong, often negative emotional reaction, frequently linked to a past trauma or distressing experience. Here's a more detailed explanation. In mental health context, a trigger is something, a situation, place, person, sound that evokes a strong emotional response, sometimes resembling a flashback or a re experiencing of a past difficult event. Oftentimes, triggers are connected with trauma. Now, trauma can sometimes be a strong word because it doesn't have to be a trauma,
Hmm.
it could just be a difficult event that comes back. People who have experienced trauma may find that certain things can act as reminders and trigger intense emotions like fear, anxiety, even panic. So here are some examples. This is straight from AI right here. This is good. So some examples, situations, a specific type of event like a birthday party, a public speech. Places, a location where the painful event occurred. People, someone who was involved in a difficult event or
Remind you.
remind you of a person. Sounds, a loud noise, or a specific song. How many of y'all have heard that song, that love song, after your boyfriend broke up with you, your girlfriend? And you began to, all right, sometimes the sound, smells, a particular scent associated with the experience. So I'm just introducing this whole notion. I want you to just think about right now the last time you remember being triggered. So it's having a strong emotional response to a situation that was more than the situation was called for. And just think about that for a minute and place that. And Holly Kim's going to teach us what to do when you get triggered. What to do when you get triggered.
What to do when you get triggered? Okay. I just had a 2 hour session on triggers with a couple, keeping them from being completely triggered and wanting to hurt each other. um, yeah. So, one of I'm going to go to a good trigger. Okay. So, just to help you uh, think of it like this. Um, like if I walk into a house and I smell like a good gumbo. That's the, and for in Hawaiian, that's like a good soup. And I immediately start to smile because I think of my grandmother. Because when I would go to her house, she would always make us a gumbo, and that brings back the feeling of love. So, you could think about a time when somebody cooked you a meal or you had a special thing and you smell it again and it brings you back to that time and that place. And it gives you this very loving feeling. Well, it's the same on the other side, okay? That when we get triggered, it brings us back to a place. But emotionally, a lot of times we're just not aware of it. So then we automatically protect ourselves just in an instant.
We're not aware intellectually.
Intellectually, we're not aware that we're being emotionally triggered. And so just in an instant, we go into our protector. And then in that arena, wherever we are, then we're not hearing out of our true self ears, we're not seeing out of our true self eyes, and we're completely protected. And the person in front of me is going to receive where I come from and what got triggered than what is happening in front of me.
So another way point is they're halfway here, but they're halfway there.
Right.
They're divided.
They're divided. And in that, it's, you may not say anything, but now you're kind of zoning out or you're guarded and the person's trying to connect with you and you're like, you know, a lot of times men get put in this category like, where are you? Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Women are like, did you hear me? Trying to like, hello, snap out of it. Are you there? And women, what we'll do is, we'll get busy usually, or we start talking, and trying to defuse the conversation, to not get into, whatever it is that I think I'm not safe. So in the trigger, the goal is, I mean, when you're doing this work, that is what we're doing, is we're triggering you in a safe zone.
Isn't that mean?
Isn't that mean? Oh, I'm sorry. But that's what we're doing. We're triggering you in the assignments.
Right.
We're triggering you in the lessons. So that way you start to see, what is it in you that needs attention? What is it in you that deserves the love that it didn't receive for whatever reason? So
Yeah.
what that does is you're doing it in your own safe space instead of just being in the world and getting triggered and then you're vulnerable. So this allows for you to be able to take responsibility for yourself in your own safety, where you know that you can start to dig things out and start to see yourself and love yourself in areas that it wasn't safe to do, or you didn't even know to do it, So it's not about blame. So in the triggers, these become your greatest opportunities to have freedom, to be able to love the people in front of you, to be able to connect to the people that you care about, and to also to be able to say no when it's not healthy. Because you're able to see what belongs in the, back here that needs love, and then what's in front of me. So, what else? You have something else?
It's really good. I think that I was reminded of when they train astronauts, they put them in a simulated capsule and they actually trigger them with all
Right.
kinds of scenarios. And they have to figure out what to do, and hopefully they make the right decisions, because it could mean life and
Right.
death, right? And so they do that consistently so that they can be trained to know what to do. Airline pilots, they do the same. That's kind of like what we're doing, is that we don't want you to have to act this out in the real
Right.
scenario where it might become dangerous, right? So we want
Or
to
you get
bring it to the
judged.
surface in a safer context so that you can work with it. And then as you learn to work with it, then when it
Right.
happens out there, then you have this whole nother skill level to work with it.
Right.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were talking, my grandfather, my papa, we call him on my mother's side. Um, Whenever somebody died in the family, he would disappear for about 2 or 3 days with his bottle of whiskey or bourbon, whatever he took, and he would just leave and disappear. And he would show up at some point, but he'd miss funerals, he missed the whole deal. But I was just thinking as you were talking, like that's just a trigger. He, for some
Right. You
reason,
can't
I
handle
didn't
it.
know his history, but he couldn't handle,
Right.
and so that's how he handled it, right?
Right.
He just went away for days.
Right.
And we all can have different ways to work with our triggers, but there's some that will come to the surface. Now, if you want to guarantee to have some of your triggers come to the surface, get in a relationship.
Get married.
And I promise you, they'll come to the surface. You'll have a chance. And it doesn't have to be even in marriage, get in a close relationship with anybody and they'll start coming to the surface. But it's all about helping you become free.
Right. Right.
How are you going to be free if you don't allow it to come to the surface.
Right.
If you don't have a chance to have it loved, then it stays dormant and it controls you on some level as opposed to you winning over it.
Right. Well, and I shared this on Saturday, and I heard it, but I don't know where. I heard it on some reel. But you know, if if somebody comes in your world and they love you 30%, and you have only loved yourself 20%, you think you have just won the prize. But if you learn to love yourself 50% and somebody comes to the table with 30%, you're like, no, this I deserve more. But if you come to the table and learn to love yourself 100%, which in our language is loving your true self, your wounded child, and your protector, then you're looking for somebody to love themselves at 100%. So what starts to happen is that as you're loving yourself more, you'll be able to love others more.
Yeah.
And then they see that they are worthy of more love. So it becomes a win-win. And then when you have couples like we have on here doing it, what that does is the more Randy loves himself and the more Robin loves herself, the more they have to give to each other. The more Chris loves herself, the more Carol loves herself, the more they have to give to each other. So in that, it becomes a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you can only love yourself as much as you are allowed to love what was not loved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like as you're being kind to yourself, as these things, as you're answering the questions and doing the assignments and being on here and someone shares and you remember something, as the more you're being kind to yourself and loving yourself and even loving the part that wasn't so kind to you or others, and you're gentle, then all of a sudden you're moving to another percentage of caring for yourself, which that means you're moving to another level to care for another.
Yeah. And the opposite is true too, is that when we have, say, I have a protector that tells me all the time how horrible and how stupid I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just beating up myself in that
Mm-hmm.
way. And then I meet my spouse and she tells me how horrible and stupid I am. I look at her and say, "How'd you find out? That's true." And I tolerate it, right? I tolerate what I'm telling myself.
Right.
But if I've really begun to challenge those messages and work with it and let it go, and my spouse tells me that message or somebody tells me that message, it's like I won't tolerate it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no,
No,
it's not.
that's not true.
It's not true. It's not okay for you to talk to me like that, and
Yeah.
so forth. So know that it is a great gift when you do this work.
Mm-hmm.
What you As you begin to tolerate less unhealthy things for yourself,
Right.
you will automatically do it the same with those around you, and
Mm-hmm.
will demand things differently in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
That's good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.